Welcome everybody back to another location video. So you might remember back in January, I actually filmed quite of the main parts of Sydney, like the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House and all that. So for this second part, we're actually going to 3 different locations today. This is one of them, and this is called Anzac Bridge, and we're actually going to be walking behind it. I didn't know you could walk along this bridge actually. So when I came up here months ago, I was shocked and actually got to walk behind you. Now you are all going to come with me through that journey. It's going to be a very fascinating one because you can see behind there is a lot of cars passing us. A little bit later in the video, I'm going to be taking to Hyde Park, and then further along, I am going to be, for the final section, going to be showing you this very, very lovely scenic view, showing just the most incredible views ever. More on that later. So without further ado, let's get into showing you Anzac Bridge. Anzac Bridge is an 8-lane cable-stayed bridge that carries the Western Distributor across Johnston's Bay between Piedmont and Globe Island, part of the suburb Rozelle on the western fringe of the Sydney Central Business District, New South Wales, Australia. It forms part of the road network leading from the Central Business District, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and cross-city tunnel to the inner west and northern suburbs. Stay cable design, concept development, and final design for the new bridge were carried out by a team from the Roads and Traffic Authority, led by their chief bridge engineer Ray Wedgwood, and the construction by Boulderstone, to which opened to traffic on 3rd of December 1995 as the Globe Island Bridge, was given its current name on Remembrance Day in 1998 to honour the memory of the soldiers of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps known as Anzacs, who served in World War I. An Australian flag flies atop the eastern pylon and the New Zealand flag flies atop the western pylon. A bronze memorial statue of an Australian Anzac soldier digger holding a Lee Enfield rifle in the rest on arms reverse drill position was placed on the western end of the bridge on Anzac Day in 2000. A statue of a New Zealand soldier was added to the plinth across the road from the Australian digger, facing towards the east, and was unveiled by Prime Minister of New Zealand Helen Clark in the presence of Premier of New South Wales Maurice Lemmer on Sunday 27th of April 2008. It's 32.2 metres, 105 feet, 18 wide, and the main span is 345 metres, which is 1,132 feet long. The reinforced concrete pylons are 120 metres, 390 foot high, and support the deck by 2 planes of stay cables. Initially, the stay cables were plagued by vibrations, which have since been resolved by the addition of thin stabilizing cables between the stay cables. There is a grade-separated shared pedestrian footpath and cycleway located on the northern side of the bridge, making possible a walk from Glebe Point Road, down Bridge Road, over the bridge and round Blackwattle Bay back to Glebe Point Road. Can carry a maximum of 180,000 cars per day It reached its maximum capacity in 2002, only 7 years after it was finished, and consistent with the principles of induced demand of traffic. It's regularly patrolled by security guards as a counter-terrorist attack measure. Security cameras also monitor the walkway. A speed limit of 60 kilometers per hour, 37 miles per hour, it was reduced from 70 kilometers, 43 mph in January 2005. Also prior to that date, the bridge had 7 traffic lanes, 4 eastbound and 3 westbound. The bridge has been used in a number of artistic works, including the Looking for Ali Brandy in 1999 movie scene where the title character, Josephine Ali Brandy, and her date, Jacob Cootie, rode across the bridge on Jacob's motorcycle. Denny Haynes' song It's Alright 1995 features the nearly completed bridge in the music video group Dance Sequences, the filming of which taking place a few months before the bridge's December 1995 opening. UMI's song Purple Sneakers from the band's album Hi-Fi Way in 1995 opens with the lyric, "Had a stretch only you could itch," under the Glebe Points Bridge. The Glebe Island Bridge was still under construction when Tim Rogers wrote and recorded the song in 1994, with the bridge's name changed to Anzac Bridge, not occurring until 1998. There were 2 bridges over Johnston's Bay before the construction of the Anzac Bridge. First bridge was constructed as part of a project to move the abattoirs out of the central Sydney, and to construct public abattoirs at Glebe Island. The first pile of the original bridge was driven in October 1860. It was opened in 1862 and was a timber beam bridge, which was 318.6 meters, which is 1,045 feet, 5 inches long, and 8.5 meters, 28 feet wide, with a 12-meter, 40 feet swing section on the eastern side. It replaced a double-stream punt crossing. Second Glebe Island Bridge was an electrically operated swing bridge that opened in 1903, a year after the opening of the new Paramount Bridge over Sydney's Darling Harbour, which has a similar design. The bridge was designed by Percy Allan of the New South Wales Public Works Department, who also designed Paramount Bridge. Delays due to increasing traffic, which were exacerbated by having to close a major arterial road to allow the movement of shipping into Blackwattle Bay, led to the construction of the present-day Anzac Bridge. The 1903 bridge is still standing, but there is no access to pedestrians or traffic. Originally, there were bus stops at the western end of the bridge, but they were removed because buses pulling out from the stops created a hazard as they merged with other traffic moving at or close to the speed limit. Australian Anzac statue on the northern side of the bridge is adjacent to the former city-bound bus stop. The New Zealand Anzac statue was installed within the ramp area of the former stop on the southern side. Hyde Park is an urban park of 16.2 hectare, 40 acre, located in the central business district of Sydney, in the City of Sydney's local government area. It's the oldest public parkland in Australia. The park is on the eastern fringe of the Sydney's city centre and is approximately rectangular in shape, being squared at the southern end and rounded at the northern end. It is bordered on the west by Elizabeth Street, on the east by College Street, on the north by St James Road and Prince Albert Road, on the south by Liverpool Street. The park was designed by Norman Weekes, Sir John Solman 1927 design resolution, Alfred Hooke, W. G. Layton and I. Bazins, and was built from 1810 to 1927. Historically, it has also been known as Sydney Common, Government Domain, the Common, the Exercising Ground, Cricket Ground, and Racecourse. Hyde Park is owned by the City of Sydney and the Land and Property Management Authority, an agency of the Government of New South Wales. It was added to the New South Wales State Heritage Register on 13th of December 2011. It's the southernmost of a chain of parkland that extends north to the shore of Sydney Harbour via the Domain and Royal Botanic Garden. Around the park's boundaries lie various buildings housing the Supreme Court of New South Wales, St James Church, Hyde Park Barracks, and Sydney Hospital to the north, St Mary's Cathedral, the Australian Museum, and Sydney Grammar School to the east, the Downing Centre to the south, the David Jones flagship store, and the CBD to the west. It's divided in two by the east-west running Park Street. Hyde Park contains well-kept gardens and approximately 580 trees, a mixture of figs, conifers, palms, and other varieties. Famed for its magnificent fig tree-lined avenues, Sandringham Gardens sit on the eastern side of the park, close to the intersection of Park Street and College Street. At the time of European settlement in 1788, the local Aboriginal people hunted ducks in the swampy marshes that were to become Hyde Park, also understood to be the site of an important Aboriginal contest ground, which is part of the greater Aboriginal history of Sydney until the mid-1820s. Aboriginal people travelled from all over Sydney and as far away as the Hunter and the Illawarra to gather at the ceremonial contest ground to the south of the city. The exact location of its site of ritualized conflict, settlement and resistance is unclear. Formerly reserved as an open space, the first public park set aside in Australia, he formally defined the park as bounded in the north by the New South Wales Government Domain, on the west by the town of Sydney, on the east by the grant to John Palmer at Woolloomooloo, and on the south by the brickfields. Macquarie named it Hyde Park after the Great Hyde Park in London, northwest of Westminster, near Buckingham Palace, which had once belonged to the Manor of Hyde and which was seized from the Abbey of Westminster by Henry VIII for a forest hunting reserve in 1536.
Macquarie's naming and formal definition of the park was part of his town planning policy. He named streets and regularised their courses, erected a wharf in Cockle Bay, relocated the marketplace and planned other improvements in the town, as well as defining Sydney's first major park and formalising its use for the recreation and amusement of the inhabitants. He also added another use for the park, as a field of exercise for the troops. His proclamation acknowledged the previous users of the area. 10 days after Macquarie named it Hyde Park, it was the venue for Australia's first organised horse race, and it was used for races through the 1820s. At that time, it was a much larger, marking the outskirts of Sydney's southern settlement. The park was used as Sydney's racecourse from 1820 to 1821. Whitaker adds, as well as being a popular cricket venue in the 1820s. It was also popular for informal children's games. It was delineated only as a space at the end of Macquarie Street, where the military held parades and townspeople cut firewood and carted off soil. It became a favourite place for cricket, a playground for local schoolboys, a race course, and with its slightly elevated position, a promenade, City's Hyde Park, as being Sydney's cricket ground from 1827 to 1856. In 1811, Macquarie framed further regulations to secure the space for public recreation. He closed access across the park to the brickfields beyond, forbade carts to cross it, or cows, sheep, goats and pigs to graze upon it, and ordered that no cattle headed for markets near Darling Harbour were to be driven across it. Further info on URL link in description. Milsons Point is a suburb on the lower north shore of Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. It's located 3 kilometres north of the Sydney Central Business District in the local government area of North Sydney. Also, the geographical feature that juts into Sydney Harbour from the northern side, directly opposite Sydney Cove, the spot where the first European settlement was established in 1788. It was named after James Milson, one of the earliest settlers. Milsons Point was named after James Milson, a free settler originally from Lincolnshire. Milson settled in the area near Milsons Point and established a profitable business supplying ships with stone ballast, fresh water, and the produce of his dairy, orchard, and vegetable gardens. In early 1820s, Milson settled in the vicinity of Jeffrey Street, Kirribilli, on 120 acres of land he leased from Robert Campbell. In 1824, Milson received a 50-acre grant of his own adjoining Campbell's land. In 1826, a bushfire raged through the area, destroying Milson's home, orchard and dairy farm, which he subsequently rebuilt. In 1831, Campbell was involved with Milson in a court action over Milson's non-payment of the lease of the 120 acres. Milson lived in the vicinity of Jeffrey Street until 1831, where he built a new home called Brisbane House on his 50 acres facing Lavender Bay. The next home he built, also on his 50 acres, was called Grafham. By the 1840s, Milson was leasing only the portion Campbell's 120 acres that contained Milson's Orchard in the vicinity of Jeffrey Street. In 1872, Milsons died at home at Groveham, in the modern suburb of Milsons Point, in what was then called the municipality of East Street, Leonards. The last of family's holdings in the lower North Shore area were resumed in the early 1920s for the construction of the Harbour Bridge and associated roadways. Milsons supports the northern end of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, as well connected with CBD by the bridge, ferries and trains. The Warragar Freeway provides a link south to the Sydney CBD and north to Willoughby. The railway on the northern approach to the Sydney Harbour Bridge, ferries wharf serviced by Parramatta River and Paramount Bay ferry services, is located to the west of the bridge and southwest part of the suburb. It's also serviced by busways, CDC and Keelan Driver, Downer, Northern Beaches bus services that run to the lower North Shore and Northern Beaches Hills District. School buses leave from Bradfield Park to transport students to schools in North Sydney. Lavender Bay is a harbourside suburb on the lower North Shore of Sydney. The suburb takes its name from Lavender Bay, a natural feature of Port Jackson's Sydney Harbour, immediately west of the Harbour Bridge. It lies between Milsons Point and McMahon's Point. The suburb North Sydney is located to the north. The bay is a residential suburb with expansive views of Sydney Harbour. Lavender Bay was named after the boatswain bosun George Lavender from the prison hulk Phoenix, which was moored there for many years. The bay is dual-named Gowi Bahari, also sometimes written as Kubari, in the Darug language of the local inhabitants. The Camaragal people of the Ura Nation. The colonists also called it Hulk Bay and sometimes Phoenix Bay. George Lavender lived on 14 acres adjacent to the property of Billy Blue. On 30th of May 1915, Lavender Bay Railway Station was opened to take the place of Milsons Point Railway Station. This only lasted for 7 weeks, as passengers refused to alight here and demanded that trains stopped at Milsons Point. During the Sydney Harbour Bridge construction, Lavender Bay Station was the terminus of the North Shore Railway line. The area is now used to stable Sydney Trains rolling stock. In the 2021 census, there were 870 people in Lavender Bay. 59.4% of people were born in Australia, and 75.5% of people spoke only English at home. The most common responses for religion were no religion, 41.6%, and Catholic, 23.9%. Christchurch, Lavender Bay, a lower North Shore landmark, and Jesuit Church of St. Francis Xavier was founded in 1856 and is now part of the North Sydney Parish. Notable residents who lived within the bay were Donald Bradman lived in the Harbourfront Bay View Street, and was one of the first few Australians to get a private telephone number while living in the Bayview Street. Artist Norman Lindsay lived at Heidelberg at Bayview Street. Artist Brett Whiteley lived in the house overlooking the bay with his wife Wendy Whiteley. Wendy continued to live there as of 2019. In 2018, the New South Wales government granted heritage status to the Whiteley's house, its views of Sydney Harbour, and Wendy's remarkable secret garden in recognition of the significance of the place to the history of Australian art.
That has been the 3 places that I wanted to take you throughout today's video. I hope everyone has enjoyed. It was so nice to take you to Anzac Bridge, Hyde Park, and now this lovely scenic view of the city behind us. It is truly magnificent, and even just going past Luna Park was something I always enjoy going to every time when I come here, is walking past that and seeing that lovely path and the wave crashing and the boats around. It's very, very scenic, and I definitely recommend when you ever come to Sydney that you should definitely go check those places out. And I will see everybody on another one of my grander adventures. Take care, everyone. Bye. Grander's socials, as well clicking that subscribe button on his YouTube channel. I also have merch on a website called Redbubble. You can check out by my username Grande94, where it sells all different things such as clothes, headwear, magnets, and alongside of other variety of cool stuff. Always appreciative of all support. Have fun looking through other content of mine and catch you on the next video. Bye everyone!